Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Football Insomniac podcast. I'm your host, Colin Watt, and today I am delighted to be joined by a fellow state of minder. You may know her as the host of the Soccer Supernova podcast. You may have seen her on a Celtic State of Mind, but if you haven't seen her for the first time, welcome to the podcast, Amy Canavan. Amy, how are you doing?
Thanks for having me, Colin. I'm doing okay. Yeah, it's a bit earlier than I usually see you, so I'm a wee bit groggy. I really am not a morning person, but yeah, for you, fine. I'll get up that bit earlier. Sort of ruins my routine. I've said to you before. I like doing I like getting up, having my cup of tea, and doing my makeup and all that jazz while watching the Insomniac. So I you've really like ruined my routine. So like I say, if Axon's bad today, we all blame you. We really do. I've not got my flow.
As you said, a regular watcher of the podcast, which is nice to see. And there's plenty of people that watch it. The last couple of shows with Anthony Joseph and with Alison Conroy have done really great numbers, and the trend will continue today with yourself on the show. So it's good to have you on. We will be speaking about what went wrong at Barcelona. So much has happened over the last week there. So many intricate things we probably can't even discuss because they're going into legal discussions, but we'll try and cover as much as we can. It's almost like the Holyrood inquiries going on over in Spain as well. We'll also be taking a look back at a topic we discussed last week, which was the Scottish lower leagues. It now seems as though the leagues have been given the go ahead to go, but do the teams want to play? This is what it's coming down to. It all comes back to money, interestingly. So does Barcelona. We'll be looking at Amy's dream football dinner party, seeing who she would have over. And she just told me before we came on air that we should be expecting a very interesting selection in the food department. She's had this well thought out. So let's see how that goes. And we'll also take a look at Amy's career in journalism so far, what she inspires to be going forward, and some of the stories that she's picked up working at Bonnie Rose. So again, a big welcome to everyone who's watching us. We were delighted last week to be the show that made us get through 10,000 subscribers on A State of Mind YouTube. Delighted to bring that up on air last week. So please continue if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the channel, click on the bell for notifications. We're also live on Twitter and on Facebook. Get your comments in, and if you've got any questions for Amy, we'll bring them up later on in the show. Before we start today, though, I do want to kind of just pass my condolences from everyone here at A State of Mind to the family of Ian St John, who sadly passed away on Monday night at the age of 82. A pioneer, it has to be said, in terms of media with himself and Greavesy. A fantastic footballer, not only south of the border, but also for Motherwell, and someone who gave us all when appearing for his country. It was a real shame to see that he'd passed away. Amy, obviously it was before our time, but is there anything you know of the saint himself?
Like I say, it all sort of stems, it's sort of to do with the dinner party as well. It all sort of stems back to my dad. My dad's a big Liverpool fan. So yeah, I've heard the stories and that from him. Even it's even slightly before his time, in the sense that when he was getting into Liverpool. But no, like you say, it's tremendously sad, and what a legacy left at Liverpool, and like you say up here as well at Motherwell. His transfer pretty much signs gives the stand at Motherwell. It pays for the stand almost. So yeah, it's really sad. And like you say, done a lot for the country as well.
And Jungle Lion just joining us here saying, just on my break in work, it was nice for you to drop in. But typical Scotland, only 21 caps for Ian St John, and that just shows you the way the kind of Scotland team was picked back in the day. That someone of his talent only had 21 caps. It's the same Jimmy Johnson only having a handful of caps as well. We just didn't seem to get the talented players on the park, and yet we were still so successful as a country. It just shows that how far the standards dropped over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really odd when you look back over the years. Again, sort of hear it all from my dad. Now I understand. Like at the time, we had the great pairing, the Aberdeen pairing up in centre half. But you look at Alan Hansen; he's winning European Cups left, right, and centre with Liverpool, and how many Scotland caps has he got? Then he's sort of one of those ones as well that, like, if he was English, he'd be hitting about 100 caps. I absolutely loved them down there. So yeah, there's a lot of players over the years that you just like 20 caps. Like say Jimmy Johnson as well. It's just a deep rooted problem somewhere in the Scotland setup.
Yeah, so obviously, everyone here at State of Mind passes their condolences on to Saint's family, and we know it must be horrible what you're going through right now. So all the best to them. I also want to bring up a quick story just before we go into the main talking points, and it's something which I'm not sure a lot of people will know about. But Scotland and Fulham midfielder Kevin McDonald is about to go under surgery to get a new kidney. He's been playing football for the last 12 years with chronic kidney disease, and in that time has shown just what's possible. He's went on and made 5 appearances for Scotland. He's got promotion into the Premier League. He was playing some of the best football of his career, and he will be going under the knife next month. And he hopes to get back to football. Perhaps he'll maybe even make his way back to his famous Dundee. It's a fantastic story, and it just shows what can be done if you believe in yourself, Amy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Kevin McDonald's, he's one of those ones a few years ago. Like you say, when Fulham were really running it in the championship, and people were like, "Yeah, get him in the side." This was before John McGinn had really hit the international scene. Like you say, Kevin McDonald's 32, so he's just a little bit ahead of that. But I think he was getting touted to break in. In a place like your James Morrisons and Robert Snodgrass and sort of shift him out the way, and he was part of that generation that never really came for Scotland, that turnover that was needed, but instead the slog sort of continued. Um, but yeah, it's remarkable. You hear him talking, he's just so, I'm not blasé, but he's just really quite, he's realistic in the sense that,
Hmm.
yeah, he's got this, that, yeah, I've managed to keep playing, but now is the time that something needs to be done, sort of thing. Like you say though, but he's obviously Fulham are treating him really well. He's doing some coaching with under 23s as well as still training a few times a week, still getting to go with the match day squad on game day. So yeah, it's like you say, it's a remarkable story, and you just got to wish him all the best because he sort of does, generally does come across just one of those good guys. You never really hear a lot of bad things about him alongside Tom Kearney as well. Like I say, it was that partnership that really thought could have broke into the Scotland squad, but just
Yeah.
never really did. Kearney's in the same sort of boat there, so
Yeah, and it's a massive credit to Tony Khan and the whole Khan family at Fulham. Also, Tony Khan is a fantastic person to look up if you see all of his business interests running a national football team in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars. He owns his own professional wrestling company, and he also owns Fulham Football Club. Where he gets the time to sleep, he's probably an insomniac as well. It's incredible what he goes through. But yeah, best wishes on behalf of everyone here at State of Mind to Kevin, and we hope that we see you back in the blue of Scotland very soon. So, all the best for that. But moving on now to our main topic today, and it's what you can see on the bar of the main screen. Where did it all go wrong at FC Barcelona? Now, there's already been a couple of points brought up, and Mark McGonigal brings this one up. Gini Wijnaldum, that's where it all went wrong. A Champions League final and likely trophy really thrown away. Even Messi coming out and saying it took players a long time to go over that defeat. And I think on the park, that's something that you can say. I mean, they're kind of slipping away from the realms of being the biggest team in Spain, but it was always between themselves and Real Madrid. But off the park, it's a complete different story. Off the park, there's rumours that they could be going bust. They could cease to become a football club, which for someone like Barcelona just seems completely unthinkable. And it was only this week that former president of Barcelona, Joseph Maria Bartomeu, I probably murdered that saying, was arrested along with 3 other members of the board. And it all comes round to a potential contract with PR company i3 Ventures to do online social media work at the club. Now, if anyone hasn't heard the story, I'll quickly go through it. Basically, some of the work involved painting a more positive image of the president, whilst at the same time slandering the image of some of the current players, including Messi and Piqué, and formerly also Xavi as well. Now, that doesn't seem to be completely um, corrupt to an extent, but it does get worse. Allegedly, i3 were getting paid 6 times the going rate to do this work. And they were also involved in decisions in the boardroom level, which they should never have been involved in. Because of this and fans' protest, the president, Bartomeu, resigned in October 2020 following fan protests. And defender and captain Gerard Piqué actually called him out on this. And he said that basically he didn't know what was going on, which has now turned out to be a lie. They're now under investigation by the Spanish police. They're in serious, serious amounts of debt. They could be going bust, and it just looks as if it's a soap. that's going on behind the scenes. It's like EastEnders, but the Spanish version at Barcelona. What's where do you start, Amy?
Like you say,
This is
I,
incredible.
I don't know. It is a really difficult one where to start. And like you say, a lot of it is going in legal sense now, so you really you've got to be careful what you say. But it's just like you say, the bankruptcy thing that's sort of has been tiptoeing around. There's been speculation on that for a little while, but again, that just is because you're looking at like the transfer business and all those claims are always sort of coming about financial fair play. I don't think they've actually ever been questioned for that, but could be wrong. But I think somebody said there, wage bills certainly don't help, but neither does spending ridiculous amounts of money on Dembele, Coutinho, Griezmann. I mean, this is massive, massive money. And yeah, obviously they got cash back for Neymar, but it's just a slippery slope over there, and it's one that is just you really just want to avoid at all costs. On the pitch, like you say, that's a whole different ballgame. Everything just sort of seems to be catapulting altogether. So I don't know what you think about it, but like I say, the intricacies and all of that's sort of goes above my head. I just sit there and go, like you say, it's going to that legal stage now, and you want to sort of stay out of it a little bit.
I just find it incredible that a club with the stature of Barcelona can have this going on in the background, and it's not as if it's like something that's just happened and it's now coming to light. This has been going on for the past 4 or 5 years,
Yeah,
going by what we're seeing in the reports, and it has forced certain players out of the club, which just shows you that maybe the financial pressures are getting to the point where they do have to start trying to move this generation of talent on, but they're trying to do it in the light that, oh, well, it wasn't our fault. We did everything we could to keep them at the club, but the players wanted to move on. And you could see that with Messi this summer when his contract was up. I mean, suddenly when they found out they were getting absolutely nothing for him, it was a case of, oh, no, 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 we need to keep him. We're going to give him a new deal. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, which is completely understandable because, okay, Messi's on something like £50 million a year, but he brings back more than that in shirt sales and sponsorships and image rights and things like that. So it's understandable you want to keep someone that is a generational talent like Messi at the club, but they can't keep going on in the way they're going. And Mr. Briggs brings up a great point here, saying their academy has deteriorated. Barca's best players in the last 15 years or so came through the academy, and they have a poor success rate when it comes to signings. I mean, Braithwaite is their number 9. Now, Braithwaite that was an incredible signing. Not incredible in the fact of he's very good. It was incredible in the fact of he's actually moving to Barcelona. This is someone who failed, I believe, at Middlesbrough. Had I think one good season in La Liga, wasn't even getting a fantastic goal return, and then suddenly, when all the players are injured, Barca are able to go around the La Liga rules to sign someone like Braithwaite. It's unbelievable. They've went through I don't know how many managers have went through in the last 4 or 5 years as well. Now you've got
that's
someone
a
like
massive
Ronald Koeman in
factor.
charge. Yeah,
Like you say, so there's a lot of on the pitch issues, but it does sort of that bridge is the manager. I don't think Barcelona have really been Barcelona probably since like your Enrique days.
mhm.
There's like you say, the Koeman one's just I, I don't think anyone. I think it was an odd one at the time, obviously, like leaving the Dutch position, and it was just everything around that. Sorry, was just odd in the sense that club wise, what has Ronald Koeman actually done? I think maybe a trophy or so at Ajax, but it was a total and utter disaster at Everton. Now you look at Ancelotti and Everton are sort of riding high, and it's the best Everton side I've seen in a few years. And Koeman, it just, yeah, he's a name, and like you say, player wise, absolutely tremendous, but managerial wise, it's not really. He's not got the best reputation behind him, so getting that gig was sort of was sort of surprising. Sorry, like you see, you look at the last few over the years, Valverde, and what was the other guy's name? Began with an S.
I know. I've not got the names in front of
Ciento,
me. Yeah,
Cienta.
they hired a lot of
Um,
managers from the Spanish league that just weren't
yeah,
up to the level to manage them.
yeah,
You'd
exactly.
seen
They weren't up to the
players
level,
fell out with
and
them. Yeah,
you're not gonna hit the heights of Pep Guardiola again. But then, really though, before Barcelona, Pep Guardiola was just Pep Guardiola. Obviously, again, as the player, but as the manager, he hadn't really proved himself. So it's not really a big thing for Barcelona to come in and get a. Now they're never going to get Mourinho or Ancelotti after Real Madrid, but it's not. They don't go for the names. They sort of go for that. We'll build you up. But the potential's there, or it's ex-players sort of thing. So that's not really the difference. But yeah, I think it's been a good few years on the pitch that you've seen this sort of downfall. But like you say, upstairs, it's just a whole different ballgame.
I mean, just looking at some of the figures that's came out in their recent reports, they made a loss of about 98 million euros before tax, I believe. $1.1 billion, £1.1 billion in debt. Of that, the bank that has loaned them the money wants almost a quarter of it back in June. Barcelona also pay their wages in 6-month installments. So you get paid in June and you get paid in December. That payment comes up in June. I was just reading as well that they also owe over £174 million in outstanding transfer fees, £48 million to Ajax for De Jong, £35.5 million to Liverpool for Coutinho, and £12 million to Gremio for Arthur Melo, a player that actually isn't actually at Barcelona anymore. Someone that has now moved on to Juventus as part of the deal to bring. I've totally forgot the player that they brought in as part of the swap deal there. But it's just unbelievable where all this money comes from. £50 million in wages to Messi, £174 million in transfer fees, £236 million owed to the bank. I think there's a serious risk here that Barcelona could be another team that ends up going into administration and then potentially liquidation, because who's got that kind of money right now that can bail a team like that out?
Sounds like monopoly money, doesn't it? It's sort of like, there's this is so my age, but like that money you used, that pretend money you used to get from the early learning centre. It's that sort of stuff. This isn't real money. This is crazy figures. And like you say, can you justify it? No, not really. Messi, I'm not justifying the money that Messi's on, but you sort of see the lure there and the need to keep Messi. You really do. More than anything, to keep the fans on side. Because again, that's just another disaster in itself. You talk about the disconnect between Celtic and the fans. You look over in Catalonia and it's not that much better. And I think, to be honest, I think the Dembele one's an odd one. I went to for my team. I got me and my dad went to Barcelona for my birthday. That's what I got as a present, and we went to Barcelona v Leganes, and Dembele was absolutely unreal. Messi started on the bench, so I was already in tears. I'm like, oh my god, what's the point of being here? Not quite, because that makes me sound ungrateful, but it was still a great day. But Messi came on and he did score, so everything was all right. But Dembele totally and utterly ripped it apart. And I remember me and my dad were standing and we were like, how is this guy getting all the hate? Because he was still, this is 2 years ago past January. Or a year ago past, no, 2 years ago past January. And obviously injuries are a massive thing for Dembele again, and it was sort of like a panic deal. I think there was probably, I don't know if Hazard or somebody came in at Real, but there was somebody obviously came in at Real, and they needed Luka Jovic or something, and it was like, oh right, we need to make a sign and we need to make a presence sort of thing. But his qualities really are there. Honestly, he was absolutely outstanding. He did go off injured, obviously, I think after about an hour, 70 minutes, if he even made it to that. And he was probably out for another 6 to 8 weeks. But you look at, so Dembele, I generally don't actually, again, it's hard to actually watch La Liga nowadays. Like you say, TV rights, commercial rights, all of that jazz. It's not like it used to be. Used to quite enjoy it. But he sort of looked like, yeah, I can see him playing for Barcelona. But then you look at like the Antoine Griezmann deal. Now that was total and utter panic in the sense that if we don't sign him now, we're not going to be like, it was just the hate that would get to Barcelona because somebody else would swoop him up or Atletico would sign him on that ridiculous deal. Like, remember that? Remember the video that Griezmann released, sort of saying that oh, I'm staying at Atletico, but I'm signing for Barca. Like, so all of that, like, it was just total and utter PR stunt. But Griezmann just doesn't fit the system. He quite simply doesn't. So there's not a lot of cohesion at Barcelona on the pitch, upstairs, manager. It's just a total and utter disaster there. It really is.
I don't think Barcelona have ever hit the heights of having the forward line of MSN, Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. And for as much as I think most people kind of have a strong dislike for Neymar, it is undoubted what his talents are on the park. He is a fantastic footballer, and that partnership with the three of them up front was frightening. That was some of the best football in the world at that point. Was just those three up front. Now you look at it as you say, Griezmann, Messi, the players that are coming through at the minute. You've got guys like Fati.
Me, Pedri.
They need the players coming through to sell them on, but they're not selling them on. You take a look at some of the players that have come through the academy since Xavi and Iniesta. PK they had to get back from Manchester United. Guys like Bojan, who was tipped to be this fantastic, outstanding player, the next Messi, ends up at Stoke. I actually don't know where he is now, but he didn't make it to the level that they were looking to. Pedro, guys like that, just never quite made it to that level. And Mr. Briggs is right. You have to look at the academy and the money that you're putting into it to get the investment back. But they're not. A lot of these players left on free transfers. A lot of them left for next to nothing. And this is why they find themselves in the financial position that they're in, because they continue to overpay for guys like Antoine Griezmann, like Ousmane Dembele, and it's just not paying off for them. They're not winning the trophies. They're now probably the third force in Spanish football behind Real Madrid and Atletico. They're in serious, serious trouble. And
Well,
I
not even
think
mentioned, sorry. And the biggest reason is that, like, we've not even mentioned the absolute disaster he letting Suarez go to Atletico for free. Like, that is the biggest. Oh, there we go. What great timing. That we've literally not even discussed that. That is shambolic. That has got to go down as one of the biggest disasters in football. Like, it's just the silliest, and silliest is sort of the only word I can come up with. Like, there's just no logic behind that. Like you say, not only did that cause such heat between Messi, because the way that Messi, obviously that's his pal, it's his wee bestie, the way they let him just sort of out the back door, not really thanking anyone for, not really thanking Suarez for what he'd done. Like, it was sort of like he wasn't leaving as a club legend, and that was obviously the whole point that Messi was making. Like, look what this guy has done for you, for me, for our club, and you're just letting him go to one of the rivals. Because again, even like obviously Zidane came back in and sort of rejuvenated Real, but Real are not the force that they were 5-6 years ago. They're simply not. They're not really. Neither of them are. So Atletico have quietly always sort of been there, and nobody. It was maybe going to go one of two ways between Suarez and Simeone. They were either going to literally be at loggerheads, two mad men, or they were just, it was just sort of going to work out, and obviously it has, because Simeone sort of sees himself in Suarez. That's obvious. I don't know who's the less mad, to be honest. One bites, one fights. So, but it's just going so well at Atletico. João Felix, there you go. Musa Dembele's only made maybe one appearance or something like that since he signed.
Since he moved over, yeah.
I don't, to be honest, for Dembele, I don't know if that's actually the best deal for him. And with Suarez still there, I don't know if there's maybe something going on behind the scenes that Suarez won't be there next year. But to me, he looks pretty happy. But that's an absolute disaster that they just let Suarez go just like that. Like, I remember just a few weeks ago, there was a chat on uni, probably on Energy Sport, the Twitter. Check it out. I do have to plug it because the boys are going mental at me that I'm not plugged it enough on my show. I'll talk about them later. But we were having a discussion. I think I said Shane Duffy was the silliest transfer of the summer, in the way that it just never turned out, or the worst transfer of the summer, just because it didn't work out. And they went, "You're actually an idiot. Like, the worst transfer, Suarez," in the sense that it just sort of went so under the radar, and nothing really. Like, why he lets that? How is anybody thinking, yeah, that works? Let him go like that. It's an absolute joke.
But then it just completely sums up the way that Barcelona have been run over the last couple of years. And then Messi's going to leave this summer on a free transfer as well. So they've never ever capitalised on when they've been at that point of this is the maximum value we're going to get for someone. They've just let it go. And this is the scenario they now find themselves in. And Barcelona's the kind of famous for their saying Mescayon club, more than a club. Well, this season, after what happens, once the money starts to it starts to becoming to the point where they have to pay it, when the banks are knocking on their door, when the sponsors are looking for their money, they could be club no mas, club no more. And that'll be interesting to see how that goes in the summer. What do you think? Could we see the end of Barcelona as we know it this summer, or will someone come and bail them out?
To be honest, I think we have, and we've just not really quite noticed it. I think I'm quite like I think we've said this before in the sense that like I'm quite the romantic, and I'd like Xavi to come back and save everything. And but I think that's sort of the only way that connection could be made, getting the fans back on side and all of that jazz. Um, is he ready to manage Barcelona? That is the deciding factor. I think having Xavi come back could be massive in keeping Messi as well. I think that's sort of the linchpin, or the only real connection that could still be that could save this Barcelona side. But I think in the last, I mean, the Barcelona that you and I grew up with would not have seen them lose 8-2 to Barcelona to Bayern Munich. Sorry.
No.
Do you know what I mean? That's crazy. I think that's when the demise started, and the Roma game, and I'm not even gonna the Liverpool game. I think that wasn't even like defensive issues from Barcelona. That was more just attackers didn't really turn up, but Liverpool were absolutely extraordinary. And sometimes you just got to tip your cap to the other side. And I would give that one to Liverpool. I really would. But Roma and Bayern Munich 8-2. Like I say, this is Barcelona here. Like I remember just sitting there and laughing, and everybody was the same, laughing, but also I think the laughing was trying to kind of hide the sort of disappointment and they're like, whoa, what are we witnessing here? This isn't the script.
And it's something that we could see repeated. They're already 4-1 down to PSG in the last 16 of the Champions League. It could happen again. I think they play Sevilla tomorrow night in the Copa del Rey
Yeah.
semi-final, already 2-0 down. 5 points behind in the league, having played a game more. This summer is pivotal to the survival, I think, of Barcelona. This will either be Barcelona's reborn, the rebirth of Barcelona, and they will once again become Mescayon club, or I think the shutters will be coming down and it'll be club no mas, and something certainly worth keeping an eye on in the summer. Get your points
As well
in
as
if
the
you do have it.
presidential elections. It's the elections, isn't it? Next week.
There's so much, yeah, and it's a fan-owned club, so where's the investment going to come from? There's so much. We could speak about Barcelona for the whole hour, just with how much of a shambles they've been on and off the park this season. But we do have other points to discuss. But if you have any comments on what we've mentioned on Barcelona, do get involved in the chat. A point I want to bring up is what I spoke to Alison Conroy about last week, and it's the return of the lower leagues in Scotland. Now, you've actually got a vested interest in this, doing some work for Lowland League side Bonnyrigg Rose, and we're going to touch on that shortly, because they were not even put up for consideration when Nicola Sturgeon made the announcement yesterday. Was it yesterday, the day before, that the leagues would be coming back, the Scottish Cup would be back? And again, big kudos to someone that's been on this podcast before, Ewan Robertson, who broke the news in the Daily Record last night that the Scottish Cup is due to return, with the second round being played on the 23rd of March. Now, there's still a lot of teams in that second round that are in the Highland League, that are in League One and in League Two. But I also read this morning that the teams in League One and League Two now want their season to be classed as null and void because they can't afford the testing. Now, this just seems like a complete. It seems like a shambles to me that they've now went and they've put all this effort about getting the teams back and getting them back playing. Now they don't want to. So, what was the point in the first place?
Right, so it's mass communication issues. What a shock from the SFA. It really is. I didn't know that this morning. Like I say, I'm not a morning person, so I have not read anything this morning. So I had no idea that they don't want to pay for testing because they can't afford it or whatever. I think the weirdest thing, like trying to break it down, there's just weird. Like I say, it's communication issues. Yesterday, when it came out and I read that the testing would take place on a Thursday. Is that right for League One and League Two? Right?
Yep.
What's the point in that? These guys are majority of them are part-time, bar maybe Partick Thistle, but I don't even know if they're maybe being part-time now. But majority, okay, but well, yeah, I think that, yeah. But the majority of them will be part-time. So these guys could get tested on the Thursday, go to work on the Friday, catch it. Do you know what I mean? Like, these things could happen. So even that hadn't really been thought through. So that's a red flag already, because you're thinking, right, they've really not thought this through. If clubs are coming out this morning and saying we want their season null and void, have they really sort of been consulted on it, that there was the potential? Is it just the SFA have now decided, that they just took the assumption that of course these guys will want to come back? There's just severe lack of communication. Like you say, I think everyone yesterday, including myself, you see that announcement, and I thought Bonner would go back up and running. I really did. And then I think our club treasurer was like, "Well, hold your horses, guys. They've not actually mentioned us." And again, it's just such a lack of communication. Now, like, put out, I'm not speaking on behalf of Bonner Groves, I'm really not. Because to be honest, we've actually not had that much discussion about it, and because we have no idea where we stand. What was the point in talking about something if it's not going to happen, the null and void? There's just so much going on. So, like I say, we've heard nothing. I think there was a meeting last night, Lowland League clubs. I think, could be wrong, but I think there was, just to see like where are we going. No idea on results about that, but it's just like I say, what a shock, the poor communication from the SFA.
And it looks as if these teams do not agree to come back and play in League One and League Two, they'll be asked to step aside from the Scottish Cup. They'll be given the prize money, which they're entitled to, but they'll be asked to step aside from the League Cup. Then you've got to the point of, well, in the Championship, is there any point in continuing for the relegation thing? Is all the teams safe? Is it only going to be someone that's going up into the Premiership? It causes so many ripples through the pyramid system in Scottish football. Also to the point of, well, you guys in the Lowland League, you've now played 13 games this season. Well, most of you have. In the Highland League, they've only played 3. So how can you justify a team coming up or down? But then you've got teams like yourselves, like Kelty, like Brora Rangers, who will be saying, well, that's 2 years in a row now that we've been denied the opportunity to progress through the pyramid system in Scottish football. Completely understandable considering the circumstances. But if football's being played, it has to kind of have some means and an ending to it. This just seems to be like, oh, these are a couple of seasons where we're just going to brush over and forget about it.
Absolutely, like you say, there's moments in the season that sort of like, and I'm just highlighting this season. So we got a last minute winner against East Kilbride, and it could result in nothing. That's massive in our bid for promotion, to win the league, and then obviously to try and gain promotion. Like you say, this pyramid system, it's not really proven that successful. Like say over the last 2 years, league gets cut. We still have games in hand over Kelty. Kelty get to win league, but like you say, there's just no case for promotion or relegation. Like you look at Brecon. Now I am just highlighting Brecon, but they're a disaster. They should not still be in the SPFL. It's a joke. I was speaking to Mark Wilson just a few weeks ago, and they sort of vouches for it. They are just not. They're not a well-run club. The football that they play is not of that level. And you take a glimpse into, and I'm including the Highland League, but you look at the Lowland League. Ourselves, Kelly Hearts, East Kilbride, BSC Glasgow, these sort of guys really touting for playing better football than half of that League Two.
Yeah.
They say, where do we go from now? It's sort of one of those ones as well. Like I think there's a comment there. Surely the clubs need to be in a bubble. That cannot happen. Like I say, these guys are part time. It's not their total and utter livelihoods. They need to make a living. So that just can't happen because they need to work on a Friday, and sometimes a Saturday morning as well. That happens. So you can't just put these in a bubble, or we wouldn't be having this conversation now because they've been in a bubble and everything would have been sorted. But I don't know, like you've got guys out injured, like that affects personal life. So you're sort of like, God, I got injured for literally nothing, in the sense that like you just no win, no loss this year. It is just disappointing. It really is. You're sort of sitting in a loop period, and just twiddling your thumbs, waiting for that update the other day before the SFA update. It was like there is no update. Like that sort of just sums everything up. That was the biggest load of nonsense that I have ever read. Like just didn't release anything. Like it is an absolute joke. Only the SFA could literally muck it up as much as they have.
I mean, it's such an awkward position to find yourselves in. You've now got the Premier trophy. I say trophy like it's the Premier Cup trophy in Scotland in a sort of farcical position where there could be a lot of teams just given a buy-in to the next round because of who they were supposed to be playing. I think Celtic's next sides against Falkirk or Arbroath, both League
Mm.
One sides. Sorry, no, Arbroath are in the top league. So does that mean that Arbroath just automatically get through and that's it? Celtic play Arbroath. Rangers, I think, are up against Cove Rangers. Um, again, a League One side, just automatically straight through. It, it just, I don't think if you've got to the point where 12 or 13 of the teams that's still in the tournament can't play, then just leave it. Just leave the tournament. What's to be lost? We don't have a sponsor. Okay, we have television rights, but I'm sure that could be renegotiated into next year's contract. If it's at the situation where we can't actually hold the kind of reputation of this tournament up to the level that it should be at, because we can't ask teams to play, we're asking them to step aside so we can move on with it. That just seems like a complete PR disaster for me.
That's a PR disaster. Like I say, the biggest thing, and I keep going back to it, is communication. Um, like you just can't. Like, it comes out and says that. So this is before I've heard anything today about League One and League Two not wanting to continue. So in that sort of statement announcement that League Two and League One were resuming, oh, and the Highland League clubs that are in the Scottish Cup can start training again. Like what? That just does. That is just total and utter PR stunt. Like you say, to keep the Scottish Cup going, to keep people happy, whoever these people are. Well, so you can train to play. I don't Highland clubs. I don't know even who's in. That's is it Brora? Are they still kicking about or?
So we've got Bucky, Nairn, Fort Martin, Keith, and Huntley are all still in the
They're
Scottish Cup.
still in. There you go. So
Yeah.
they're all still in. So you can train to. I don't even know who they're playing. So you can train X, Y, and Z to probably get beat by a Premiership side or whatever. But to play to try and win promotion to win your league, nah, you can't train. Like that is just total and utter disaster. Like you can't. It's like saying to a bear, like, oh, you can go out and play with that pal, but you can't go out and play with that pal. Like it just doesn't. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So it's just keeping the boys in the suits happy.
Do you think that potentially this move from the League One and League Two teams to say that basically, well, we can't afford the testing, so we just want to null and void it, is a move to try and get additional funding from the SFA or maybe from the Scottish Government that will allow the players to play? I mean, there's talks that this testing could cost from now till the rest of the season an additional £30,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for some League One and League Two teams, that's maybe 30-40% of the playing budget for the season.
It's a lot of money. I don't know because you don't know the ins and outs of these things. Like I say, but this discussion shouldn't even be happening. The SFA can't be coming out and saying you can resume, but they don't want to resume. That there has to be conversations going on behind saying, right, we're going to say you are going to resume, and then the flies come out and go, well, we actually don't want to. This is just a disaster. It's like a game of to and fro. I don't know. Like you say, I don't know the reasons why they don't want to resume, and well, obviously it's because of the testing, but are they not getting? I don't know where the grant money's going. The grant's a whole different kettle of fish. That's just been an absolute joke. Um, I don't know. It is just a mess. It's an absolute disaster. Like I say, the fact I go to sleep last night thinking League One and League Two and back, and now you're getting told that nah, they don't actually want to be back. What a mess.
It's something that we're probably going to have to discuss again on here once we find out what the actual outcome is. Again, it's just like Barcelona. It's another drama that seems to be getting prolonged as the season continues, and um, it's probably 3 or 4 times now we've brought this up in the Insomniac, and there's still no outcome to it. A lot of people coming in with their suggestions saying perhaps they kick out the lower league teams, maybe that they have to bubble that we spoke about before, but there doesn't seem to be a scenario that suits everyone unless you can get all the teams back playing football. And the way that the finances are in Scottish football, at the minute, that doesn't seem possible. Maybe there will be a additional benefactor like there was in the summer that comes forward to offer the money for the testing, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So, lower leagues, Barcelona, it only makes sense for us to move on to the topic everybody comes in to watch. This is the one where we get to know more about our guest. And today I'm joined by the host of the Soccer Supernova podcast, Amy Canavan. It is the dream football dinner party. Now, both of us know in Scotland you don't call it a dinner party, but we open up to everybody. This is a kind of a more upper echelons thing of having a dinner party. We'd call it a gaff. We'd call it an empty. What would you call it through the East Coast?
Just a gaff, probably. Aye, a gaff's where
Gaff.
we're at. Aye.
So you're having a gaff, but in this gaff there is 4 people from the world of football, dead or alive. We've managed to bring them back for 24 hours, a bit like in Cinderella when the clock strikes 12. Unfortunately, they go back again. But they're coming over to your house. They're coming over to the Canavan household. First of all, what are you cooking? This is the bit that you've left us all in suspense for.
So I'm not cooking. I am a student for starters. I do not cook. I am the fussiest eater you will ever come across. So I am not cooking. So my dad will be cooking. He doesn't know that, but he will be. But I'll make it up to him. One of the guests, I'll make sure that he it's a connection to him. But I wouldn't be cooking. Like say, if I cooked, it'd be toast. Aye. And even my toast isn't that great. My pals make fun of me because my toast is all that pale. I don't like it that burnt. But aye, so I'd be making toast, but no, he can ruffle something up in the kitchen. He's not too bad. So I think fajitas are his thing. I do like them, but if it kept the guests happy, then I'm more than happy with that. So probably go with chicken fajitas. Aye.
Chicken fajitas. I wonder if that will have a say on who will be coming into your house for the dinner party, for the gaff. Who's the first person at the door with a bottle of wine?
So with a bottle of wine, the first guest, I'll have my own first guest. I'd go Joe Ledley. What a shock.
Okay.
Joe Ledley. When I growing up, he was just my total and utter idol. I think I was just at that age that I got into football quite young. In the sense that I watched your Nakamura's and all that at Celtic and all of that. So Ledley wasn't like the first player that like I sort of seen, but he's the first player I totally and utterly fell in love with. Everything about him. I think I'm right in saying that his last goal was against Partick Thistle, like at New Year for Celtic, and I was there, and the goal was just dedicated to me. Like I know it was. I just know it was. You can say different, but I know it was to me. And he only scored because I was there. But I just honestly, like I say, I had a wee picture of him in my room, and it was on my wall for a wee while. But I just totally and utterly loved him. I loved him in that midfield as well. Like different partnerships with Wanyama, with Key, with Brown. I just loved everything about him, and I think he went really underrated during his time at Celtic. I think he'd done a lot of work that sort of just went unnoticed because there was other big names. There was your Gary Hoopers on the side, a very young James Forrest, like say Scott Brown at that time, Chris Commons. There was just a lot of good players on that side. You look at even the back, but Joe Ledley for me was just like totally and utterly. That is the first player that I think I cried at when he left. Like it was one of those moments. It was a proper dagger to my heart. Like it really was. Then the beard came along. That was a further dagger to my heart. But Joe Ledley was just he was just the be all and end all for me. He really was.
You weren't one of the ones that fell for the Joe Ledley Twitter scam at the minute, were you?
No, no, because I knew he was better than that. I did.
For anyone that's not seen it, basically Joe Ledley's Twitter account was hacked for about, I don't know, 6 weeks. It seemed to go on for forever. He was offering cheap PS5s. He was offering so much information that was apparently coming from Joe Ledley. And even when Joe Ledley was on Soccer AM, the guy was still tweeting out, so he clearly wasn't keeping up with what Joe was doing. But yeah, Joe Ledley, first one into your household, obviously an idol of yours, someone that you admired greatly growing up. Is it maybe
I just sit there with big beady eyes. I would just love that. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say maybe this next person's here for your dad then. Guess number 2.
All right, we can go to that. So for my dad, if he's cooking, I may as well bring somebody along and keep him happy. It's Kenny Dalglish. My dad, so he was totally and utterly infatuated by Kenny. He obviously went down to Liverpool, and that's sort of where the connections came around it. Keep a wee eye on Liverpool, and so does he. But for him, Kenny was just the man. I've watched all the documentaries out there, every single video about him. I really have. I can actually hear him in the kitchen right now. Obviously, he's cooking the dinner. Can stop running that tap. He's obviously not watching me. That's great. But I might take Kenny out if he's not even paying attention to me. Stuff on, I'll bring in somebody else. I won't. But I'd still go for Kenny for my dad. Absolutely. It was just, he's the screensaver on his phone, which says a lot. Like, he's got 2 kids, and Kenny Dalglish is still the screensaver on his phone. So, that sort of shows the pedestal that my dad's got him on. But I can't really begrudge him with that. He's done great things for Celtic and Liverpool, and he's a total great. So I wouldn't mind having Kenny along as well. So
I think one of the things that kind of epitomises the man that Kenny Dalglish is the way that he reacted after the Hillsborough disaster, the way that he was there to support the families that had lost people, and his actions on the day and ever since, being such a kind of a staunch supporter of the justice for the '96 movement, and a fantastic a man. He's done so much in his career. He's had so many things that have happened to him personally as well, and he's always come out with that smile on his face. A fantastic man, and I can see why your dad admires him so much. Maybe not enough to have yourself and your brother not on his phone, but I mean, yeah,
sums it up.
I get that. I get that. So Joe Ledley, Kenny Dalglish, who is the third person in the Canavan household?
The third one, I'm really keeping it segregated. I'm sorry, I have realised that, but I don't really care. Bertie Auld. So Bertie Auld, I've got a great story about Bertie Auld. I was 11. So we were on a family holiday. Like I said, I was 11 and we were out in Tenerife or something. We were out in Tenerife. And anyone who's been out there knows the Hoops Bar. Stevie's an absolute legend out there, and you have a great time. So we were out there, and my mum, being my mum, she recognised this guy, and she's like, I really recognise him. This, like, we're out in Tenerife. My mum's still like, nah, I really recognise this guy. So she sends my dad to go, excuse me, are you Fidalki? And he's like, I actually am. Turns out this guy, my mum lived like in the same street growing up. And like, it was crazy. He moved out to Tenerife and all that jazz. Like, you go to Tenerife and you have to find somebody who lives in your street growing up, hey. Like, that's just the sort of, like, it's like my mum just knows everybody. So we were pretty much going to spend every night there anyway, but we spent a lot of time at the Hoops Bar. And it was coming up, I think it was Charlie and the Boys' 25th anniversary, and it was coming up that they were playing somewhere in wherever we were, Los Cristianos. We were playing somewhere. So I'm 11, which means my brother's 9 or 10. So we really are just bairns. And we're seeing all these posters for Charlie and the Boys, and they're playing like the night before we leave. So it's a Friday night, we were leaving the Saturday morning. So we were like, oh, mum and dad, like, they've seen like Charlie and the Boys back here. But we're like, that's pretty amazing. So we kept going back and all that, and everything was great. And then I think the actual Friday, mum and dad were like, oh, they're letting you go to Charlie and the Boys. So we'd heard my dad go like to Charlie and the Boys over the last few years, and had all these great guests like Frank McAven and all that. Like I say, we went into this Irish bar in Tenerife, went upstairs. I think we were sort of snuck in a little bit. Probably wasn't the best stunt, like I say. We were 9 and 11. We were kicking about with J-toes and all that. But Bertie Auld was the guest. So he was their speaker and the side guy. But so we go, and like I say, me and my brother, we're the only sort of bairns there. And we get our picture taken, and Bertie just like sort of instantly took to us. So we get our photos, and my dad's getting all his photos with the European Cup and all of that jazz. And then my mum gets a photo, and Bertie takes my mum aside and goes, you know what? You've got 2 absolutely terrific children there. You've done a really, really good job. So like, and he was just so lovely in the way that he was like saying, oh, you've really brought your kids up well. They're really mannerly bairns and whatever, and really well behaved. Because we were just sort of sitting in the hall at night, like, this is amazing. Like 9 and 11, this is just a whole different world. It's already a great holiday. My mum does not shut up about that. That Bertie Auld told her that her bairns are great. But I think it just speaks a lot for the man, that like, just the way that he sort of kept looking over at us all night, and we were just looking at him like, and we had them, you know, those playing cards that you get through the Celtic store, and I think one of the I don't know if it's the clubs or whatever, it's all the Lisbon Lions. So we took Lisbon Lions in the great, and Bertie signed our playing cards. And he just sort of sat and he spoke to us and whatnot. But I like saying that to my mum, like just totally and utterly made our day. And it was just like I say, it just speaks volumes of the man. And he'd bring a little bit of humour to the table as well. So
There's so many nice things that you can say about Bertie Aldies. Not just as a Celtic legend, but just a legend of Scottish football. The man is a complete gentleman. Anytime I've been in his company, he's always had a smile on his face. He's always wanting to tell a joke, and it's incredible still to see him kicking about at this age, getting to the games and stuff like that. So once we're back in the stadiums, I'm sure wee Bertie, wee 10:30, he'll be one of the first ones at the turnstiles trying to get.
absolutely.
So Joe Ledley, Kenny Dalglish, Bertie Auld, who completes the quartet at the table?
So Paul McStay completes it. Again, Paul McStay's before my time, just a little bit, but sort of going about where I got into football. Obviously, like I say, I've got my dad and my brother, but one of the biggest influences for me was my uncle as well. We used to sit up late, like when I was a little bit younger, and he'd show me all these videos. We'd watch the 6-2 game. Obviously, that's not Paul McStay, but Paul McStay is totally and utterly his idol. So for him, I'd sneak him into the house as well. I'd sneak Kevin into the house, and you could meet Paul McStay. Like I say, my uncle's just had such a great influence on everything that I've done. He's always sort of there. So for him, I would bring Paul McStay, and like I say, I would sneak him in as well, not to rub it in his face that I'd be sitting with Paul McStay. I'd sneak him in. He's a fussy eater as well, so we wouldn't be having the fajitas, but we would just sit there in awe. So, for my uncle, it'd definitely be Paul McStay. Yeah,
It's an incredible table that you've got there. Joe Ledley, Kenny Dalglish, Bertie Auld, Paul McStay, all
no
having
bad.
your dad's chicken fajitas. That's certainly one that I think if you recorded that, the views on that would be incredible. Just a comment coming in here. You'd need to invite old Chico at the Rose if King Kenny's going. Is that something you know? Do you want to elaborate on that?
So Chico is our chairman, Charlie Kirkwood. So Kirky Oz, I don't know if that's going to be. I don't know whose username that is. I don't, could be Kyle. They're all big. Chico's a big Celtic fan as well. There's not many of us kicking about in Bonnering, to be fair. But Charlie's Celtic mad, so he can come along. Him and my dad go way back as well, so Charlie can have a bit of the fajitas for sure.
And that kind of takes us on nice as a lovely segue into the kind of final topic of the show today, and that is the fact that we have you on the show. A lot of people have seen you for the first time in the last sort of couple of months on A State of Mind, on the Celtic State of Mind, and now your own show, the Soccer Supernova. But you've been doing a lot of work for Bonnie Rig Rose now for a number of years. Where did it all start for you? When did it come to the point where you thought, I want to get into journalism and particularly into football?
So that goes way back. I was in primary and I was playing football and I was playing basketball. I was sort of doing everything. I really was. And like I say, I'd grew up and I can always sort of remember sitting watching Sky or probably Setanta back in the day, and I used to like up in the top corner where it says like the teams. And I remember I used to just like have a little competition with myself, and I'd be going to like write EVE and trying to learn that that's Everton and all of that. So that's where it really went back. Like I say, not just my dad and my brother, but like my family is football mad. I think everybody sort of comes into my house, and like my mum sort of has that recurring saying that the only channel that's on is going to be Sky Sports. Like, it's crazy in this house. Like, we will literally watch anything, even cricket. So it goes way back, and I've got 3 uncles, and my gran lives in this massive, beautiful park. And we used to just go out and play football all the time. Me and my brother, we're the only sort of like the young bairns, so we would go out and we'd be playing with my uncles. So football has just always been there. It really has. And then I was playing football at school. I was captain of the girls' team and everything like that. And I think I was always sort of good at my English as well. I remember just like my mum worked at the school, and a teacher went, she should really maybe go into sports journalism. So it's just like you could combine our two sort of loves. So I went into high school sort of going, yep, I'm going to be a sports journalist. Now it's crazy, like at high school, that you're literally 12 and they're wanting you to plan out your career. So I'd sort of always had that in the back burner. But then you obviously it comes and goes, and you're like, oh no, I want to do something else, just because it sort of got monotonous thinking that that's always what I wanted to do. But I had great teachers at school as well. There's a few that just really were like, no, this really is something that you need to go into. Because then, unsurprisingly, that sort of doubt comes in. You don't really see female journalists, sports journalists, so we're like, oh, Kelly Cates is out there, but and obviously there's more and more now. But at that time, you're just sort of thinking, is that really an industry that I want to go into? Is it one that I'll get into? Is it one I'll be successful in? So all of that comes and goes. But like I say, I had really good teachers who kept me on the straight and narrow. Applied for uni. I applied for a few places. Stirling. Two courses at Stirling, Edinburgh, Napier for journalism. And then I was actually thinking about doing history at Edinburgh and at Dundee as well. But stuck with journalism, stuck with Napier purely so I could stay at home. Stirling was the plan. Stirling was the plan. If you look at Stirling with the sports facilities there, I was like, this is where I want to go. The campus is unreal. But I went with my mum on the tour and I hated the accommodation. Now I am no snob, I am really no snob. But I was like, I can't live here. I can't, like, princess can't live here. But I just did not take to it at all. So I went to Napier. I'm in third year now. So I just doing journalism. It's typical. Last year we were doing sports journalism module. It gets cut off because of COVID. So that's just typical. But we're really lucky at Napier. It's like I say, I touched on it earlier, but Energy Sports, our website, ironically, which I've just never really wrote for because I'm Mrs. Big Shot, so I don't need to write. But I appear on the podcast because I don't mind talking about writing. I'm bored of that now. But it's a great website there, so I'd strongly urge anyone to check that out. Energy Sport. They're sort of kicking about at all the grounds as well, so you'll see a few of the guys. But there's a really solid base there. And it's an award-winning website, so there's some really, really good content, and it's a really good place to be, and to sort of like improve. So I like I say, I never actually have wrote for the website. So the Bonnerig came around last year, this time last year actually. So there's a guy called Stephen Watson. I see that comment, Jack. That is the editor of Energy Sport. So there was a tweet went out. I think maybe Jack commented on it, and it was Stephen Watson who does a lot of PR stuff, and he put out that the Bonnerig Rose were looking to build a media team sort of thing. So I think it's all those ones that's like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So one of the guys commented on it, and then I just sort of went from there. I think I maybe seen Sean McGill, who I do it with. I think maybe seen him comment, or it was Jack Donnelly there, and I was like, oh, I fancy a wee bash at this. So I applied, and then it took a long time to hear back. Like I remember, like I was literally checking my emails every 2 minutes. It was proper obsessive, because I was like, this is like a really good opportunity. It's 2 minutes up the road. My dad's club growing up. It just seemed to be a really good fit. So then it came to the June. I got it. Kyle's middle name is Douglas. There you go. And we got it in the June. So like I say, the season had been cut off. We've since found that obviously the media team sort of came along to try and improve fan connection when the fans weren't in. So there's 3 of us that do it there. There's myself, Sean McGill, and Jake Gray, and we're all just students at Napier. So it's a great building blocks. It really is. It's great foundations, and obviously from there is actually where I got onto a Celtic state of mind. I think Simmy is a goalkeeping coach down at Haddington, so I think he'd seen some of the stuff that I've been doing through Bonnerig, seen my name pop up, and then my pinned tweet is a tweet about Stevie Chalmers, and I was just speaking to Simmy last week or the week before about this, and he's like, I seen you, he's like, I went into your profile and I seen your pinned tweet, and he's like, Paul, I think she's a Celtic fan. And that's sort of where it all kicked off from. So I still at uni, like I say, 3 and a bit years in now, so just see out these last few weeks, and then it'll just be dissertation in 4th year. And then, like say, I've got a show going on, got a Celtic State of Mind as well. So it's busy, and it's and Bonnerig Rose, of course, whenever that sort of returns. But I couldn't really ask for a lot more right now. It's going all pretty well.
Yeah, so you just mentioned your show there, and it's for anyone that's not seen it on a State of Mind, it's called the Soccer Supernova, and it launched not Sunday there, but the Sunday before, and your
Yeah.
first guest on it was former Celtic general manager Jock Brown, and it ended up going pretty viral. I'd say it was in some of the major media
Viral.
outlets as well. What was that like for you, hosting your own show for the first time?
I was really nervous. I was going to use a phrase, and then I just thought my gran could be watching. But so I was very nervous. I think the first show I actually done was the one that went out on Sunday, was David Duke. So hopefully in a few weeks, the more that come out, I'll gradually get a little bit less nervous. But it was just, everything just sort of happened so quickly. Like, Paul messaged me on a Thursday, saying, I've got this idea, this plan, I'd like you to host and all that jazz. I'm buzzing it. I really am. I think the day that Paul asked me, it'd been 3 years since I had my interview for uni. So I was like, God, then it took a wee while to sit back and go, my God, I've actually, like, I am doing all right. Just sort of chill.
Quite
Because
away, yeah.
I'm one of those people that, so you know that already, that I don't, I just thought, I'm always sort of worrying about, like, you see comments and that. And I think it was sort of that realization that, no, Amy, just chill. You're actually doing all right. You're sort of on course. And you're actually maybe doing a wee bit above kind of what you expected you'd be doing. So it sort of came along at the one time. So I think the Thursday, and then I'd sort of like was telling my pals, or just, I think even just my really, really close pals, like maybe even just my best friend. But everything was sort of kept under wraps. And then the following Thursday, I actually think I had my first interview with David Duke. So like everything was just like the title of the show. I think the night before I asked, I was like, Paul, isn't even a title for this? And everything was just so quick. In a way, I think it went better because I never had any sort of time to, like, I am quite pessimistic in the sense that I'd be like, oh no, can't do this. Like, my God, you should have seen the tears and tantrums about that first show going out. Like, I was at work, so it made it really hard. Because it goes out Sundays at 8. But I work at, I still work. So I am in Tesco's as the show's going out. So I'm like literally with my best friend Neve, and I'm like crying in the bathroom, crying this. I'm like, I don't want it to go, can't have all of this jazz. So I'm very, very nervous about it all. But like you say, that it went down fairly well. The reception was, I couldn't really ask for anything else, because I think everyone sort of got their preconceptions of Jock Brown as well. I think what makes it a little bit tricky is obviously it was before my time in that sense, so I had to do a lot of extensive research, just because I wanted to get everything right.
Yeah.
But it's went down well, and I, like I say, 5,000 odd views, so it's not too bad, is it?
Just putting that one out there, 5,000 odd views and climbing.
I know, I wish I should have checked it before to get it more accurate, damn it.
So, I mean, just before we wrap up then, what is your kind of goals for the future? What are you aiming to do? Obviously we had Alison Conroy on last week, and I kind of asked the question for you. You'd asked me to ask her the best kind of approach to getting into journalism, how you can start off, and obviously she's went through the same process you're going through right now. So, having had that experience now, what is your goals for the future? What is the kind of targets for you going forward?
It's a really hard one. I think even Paul maybe asked me this last week, maybe in preparation for this, and I never really took it on board. But I really, like, in all honesty, I don't know. You ask me, I don't know, even 2 years ago, and I'd still be saying, oh, Sky Sports is where I want to be. I want to be Sky Sports journalist, doing this, breaking this news, breaking that. I think fundamentally that probably still is the aim. Because it is quite conflicting in the sense that at uni, obviously, we sort of get like plunged along the tangent that there's a difference between, you know what I mean, hard hitting journalism, and I'm not saying because the Celtic State of Mind is not a blog, this is proper intellectual contributors here, but there's they really like to sort of divide the fan media and then actual media. But right now, like, we know ourselves how much the mainstream media are going to fan media. Look how often Paul's on Sky and Natasha's on Sky. It's the way to go, because it's the way that you pull in viewers, because that is where fans want to hear their information from now. What's the point in hearing from the mainstream media when you, like, do you really want to, the prime example is, do you want to be watching Sky Sports halftime analysis, or do you want to be watching a Celtic State of Mind? Now, I know where I watch, and it's not Chris Boyd. So it's just one of those ones that I don't actually know. Like, I think I'm in quite a privileged position right now in the sense that I'm comfortable enough where I am. Everything's sort of going as well as it could be, and I'm liking what I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, I'm still just a student, and where that leads me is a different avenue. So come back to me maybe next year when the show's maybe been kicking around for a while. But right now, I'm more than happy where I'm going, and I who stops at presenting? I'm just going to run Sky Sports.
aim for the stars, and if you hit the moon, you've done well. Joseph McGonigal coming in saying, "No need to be nervous, Amy. Doing a grand job." And I think
I'll send him a tenner.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to cost you a lot of money. I say £20 if everybody comes on and says they enjoyed being on the show.
I enjoyed being on the show.
we didn't set that out beforehand, so you're not. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Football Insomniac today. We've covered so many topics, and again, just want to pass our best wishes on to Fulham midfielder Kevin McDonald as he undergoes his surgery on a replacement kidney. And I mean, it's been a fantastic hour, just been over an hour now. So a big thank you to everyone who has watched us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter for all the comments that's coming in, even the guys from the rig that have been in to wind up Amy in the comment section. The Rose, is it the Rose? Sorry, the Rose.
The Rose. The rig. God, Colin. So
sorry,
uncultured.
I need to brush up on my lower league knowledge. But just a final point here from Highland Paddy 2. Are these two on again at 12:30? Yes, we are. Myself and Amy will be hosting. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Highland. You can let us know. But we will be hosting the Celtic State of Mind Bulletin live at 12:30. So we'll give you guys 20 minutes peace before you see us back on your screens. But
Can I go have a cup of tea first? Can I go have a cup of tea first?
You can go and have a cup of tea. Yeah, grab yourself a sandwich, do whatever. There's going to be a chilled out bulletin at 12:30.
Needed.
But until then, and until next week, I will be joined by BT Sports commentator Rory Hamilton. I'm excited to have him on the show. And
you can't go for me, Rory Hamilton. Are you joking?
It's the same level.
It's really not.
That's 20 quid you owe me now. That's
really
20 quid you owe me now. And then on the following week is St Patrick's Day, and we have a special Irish guest lined up for St Patrick's Day as well. So look forward to bringing that one to you. But a big thank you to everyone who has been watching so far today. Please do like, share, and subscribe to A State of Mind. Share the podcast with your friends. Let's continue to let this one grow. And until 12:30, if you're coming back to watch us on the Celtic State of Mind, then we'll see you then. But if not, I will see you all next Wednesday.